What's up, guys? Welcome back to Boost Brothers Garage. In this episode, we are going to continue tearing down the Cayman engine. Part 4, I think we're on. We're going to get this cylinder head taken off, we're going to get all the front accessories off, and we're going to have it down to the bare short block. If we're lucky, we may even start tearing into that. Stay tuned. Since the last episode where we got the other cylinder head off, if you haven't seen that, I'll post a link up here. We got the correct size hex bit to get this other tensioner off so that we can now get this head off as well. As always, we are taking extra care to label, bag and tag absolutely everything that comes off of this engine. Is this driver's or passenger side?
Driver.
Driver's side chain tensioner. We had already started pulling the cams off on this side, so we have the bolts out of the sprocket. Now that I got the chain tensioner off, we can go ahead and remove the bearing caps off the cams and get those pulled out. In order to get the cam the rest of the way out, we've got to get this timing chain follower undone. I got one bolt, or one of the guide pins out, but the other one is hiding under all these front accessories. So it sounds like we get to do that a little sooner than we thought. All right, now we can pull this, I guess, coolant crossover pipe off. That's what I'm gonna call it anyway. We're now pulling off the oil pump here. Almost got it off. That should be all of those. See if we can pull it off, and then we can finally gain access to that second guide pin for the chain tensioner. Well, that's part of it. What am I missing? Nothing. It looks like the gear itself is somehow holding it on. See if I can pull that out. Which I can, and a little drive shaft, and then this should pop off. Voila! Now we can get to this fella right here. I finally got the cam sprocket to work its way off, which means I can now pull this camshaft out. Slowly, carefully, and then I can pull the lifters and we can mark those just like we did in the last video. We want to make sure that those stay where they are on the camshaft for when and if it's reused. Next to come out is the intake cam, and that means that we can finally start pulling the head bolts and getting the head pulled off. We got the lifter girdle out, all the lifters, the cams, and now we can start pulling the head bolts. And it still amazes me how tiny these little valve springs are. And how long those head bolts are. All right, head's unbolted. Let's see if we can pop it off. Oh yeah. The good news once again, no D-chunk. Which means, most likely, as we originally thought, it's gonna be a rod bolt. Question now is, do we continue to tear this thing apart tonight?
Rod bolt.
Rod bolt, rod bearing, whatever. So yeah, good news so far. I don't think we're gonna get it completely apart tonight, but we are gonna keep going. Next thing is this water pump. Part of me, in my head, just started thinking, what if somehow all this was just because of a bad water pump? But then I remembered the metal shavings were in the oil, so don't think we're gonna get that lucky. Still looking good, plastic impeller and all. I think that's plastic. Idler pulley, whatever this contraption is. Oops.
What are you doing now?
Thermostat housing. We're gonna have to start bagging and tagging this stuff here in a second.
Save that thermostat. We can sell that for a couple bucks.
Yeah. Hey, whatever helps at this point.
Maybe some good news to.
Oh, there's definitely some good news. But we can't give that to you just yet. Because we're not done here. We got some sensors on each case half, which we'll leave. But I think that once we pull the crank pulley here, which we could probably leave in place, but we'll go ahead and get that pulled. And the sump cover down here, man, that's it to split the block. Unless we flip it over to the other side and there are any, you know what, I think there's a IMS shaft flange that we'll have to take off too. But we're getting so close
To finding out
what's wrong.
what's wrong.
Yeah, that's gonna take all 300 pounds of me to get off. All right, I cracked her loose, so it should be easy from here on out. That is a hefty crank pulley bolt.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna pull the guide pin for this timing chain guide while we're here. So that's out. And we have this side of the motor completely disassembled. We will flip it over and see what we've got on the other side. We pulled the 3 bolts from the IMS bearing retainer, which on the M97s you can't replace the IMS bearing from the outside of the engine. That's only something on the M96s. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this nut off as well, just to make sure there's gonna be nothing holding it in the block or the block together. And that will be the very last piece of the puzzle before we can start splitting the case. Or we'll just leave it there. One last very important part we forgot was to pull the sump. So that is going to be our last task for this evening. And we'll see if there's any evidence of anything inside here. See if we can't get this thing off of there without hurting it. It actually looks really clean. I don't see anything catastrophic. Just looking at it, I don't see metal shavings all over the place. It looks like all the metal shavings that came out of this engine ended up getting stuck in the oil filter like they should. As we continue to dive deeper, it still looks like it's going to be a rod bearing. We will know next time. We will go ahead and split the cases. We'll have the complete engine disassembled. It'll be the last segment of this disassembly series. And we'll give you an update on what comes next. Like we said earlier, there's some big news as to our future plans.
0.4 bigger or like?
Oh, I mean, you know, if you had to put a number on it, yeah, probably 0.4.
You know I don't like to like round up, so I'll just, it's gonna be like 0.4 better.
Right, like 0.4 of a liter better than this, if I had to guess. But I'll tell you all about that next time. We'll finish the disassembly of this thing and we'll finally know what happened to our Cayman. Thanks for watching, guys.